Aboro, Aboye, Aboshishe, and welcome everyone to another live stream of the Ifá Orisa tradition discussion. Before I start discussing tonight's topic, I would like to open with the Oriki. Open Nifun Olorun, Oludumare Oba Ajiki, Mojiloni, Mowogu Meriaye, Iba Ila Orun, Iba Iwo Orun, Iba Ariwa, Iba Gusu, Iba Oba Igba Aye, Iba Orun Oke, Iba Baba, Iba Yeye, Iba Atiwo Orun, Iba She, Igungun Kiki Igungun, Iba She Ori, Ori Inu, Ipori Atiwo Orun. All right, today's subject is going to be what to do with your Ifá. But before I start today's discussion, there is something very important that I want to do. Today, I want to publicly thank several elders on behalf of the entire community for the contributions that they have made over the very many years of service that they have provided for the entire community. Today, I want to honor three of our Agbas, three of our elders who have been for many, many years working very hard and making sacrifices. All right, the first person I want to mention is known generally to most of the members of the public as Dr. Einatou Pearl Springer. In our community, she is known as Iyaloja Ogun of Trinidad and Tobago. All right. I quite fondly remember visiting the Port of Spain library when it was opposite the square and next to the town hall. I remember getting assistance from Iyaloja Ogun while I used to be visiting Trinidad doing various forms of research on the history of African people in Trinidad and Tobago. She always used to provide me with guidelines, information, and tell me and bring to me most of the books that I would have needed in order to complete most of my research papers at the time. All right, the next person on the list who I would like to publicly thank on behalf of the entire Ifá Orisa community is generally known to most people for members of the public because he served the public also as Olodari Masatunji. But in our community, he is known as Chief Alantunse Ogun Agbaye of Ile Ife. And that is not his only title because he carries two crowns. His other title is Chief Orowale Oworamfie of Ile Ife. This Agba is a community activist, publisher, writer. He's a master teacher. He's a diviner. He's a Baba. And there are lots more things that titles that I could attach to the name of this particular elder. This is an elder who I've spent a great amount of time visiting for services and for different things. And by the way, this is the same Baba who also conducted my Orisha marriage ceremony. All right. And the last person on today's list I want to acknowledge and thank publicly on behalf of the entire community is Baba Rawle Gibbons. This Agba is a playwright, he's a director, he's an author, and he's also an educator. I had the privilege of meeting this Baba probably 6 years ago. He was a training facilitator at the University of the West Indies, where I was doing a program that was designed, it was called the Working Group for Interreligious Studies, of which himself, Dr. Di Pizza, and a couple of other people from the African traditional community hosted this program. All right, so I had the privilege of meeting this brother. I don't know him very, very well, or as well as I know the other two elders, but I did have the opportunity to meet him. All right, so now that I have said thanks to them, right, the reason that we are actually paying respects to these elders while they are still alive, right, is because at this stage they can still appreciate the gratitude that we are extending. We're not going to wait till all our elders has transitioned to thank them. I think it is important for us to, yes, recognize those who have transitioned, but it is also important for us to extend courtesies to those who are still alive and could hear our words and acknowledge where we acknowledge their endless contributions, their sacrifices, their hard work, their resources and their resourcefulness, their commitment, their determination, their patience, and their perseverance, for having the will to do what is best for us all, when many times we did not or do not see or understand or appreciate what was being done. All right, so I want you all to know that we love and appreciate what you all have done and is continuing to do for us as a community. All right, so again, thank you all three Agbas, for your contribution to our community. All right, so now for me to actually get into today's teaching and lesson. All right. Now, practically all religions that we know today started off with a small group of followers. These groups, in most cases, were labeled as cultists, radicals, and in some centers they were referred to as heretics. A good example would be the Protestants who fled to America to avoid persecution because they were being forced to revert to Christianity, to leave the country, which would have been Great Britain, or be burned at the stake by the Church of England of Great Britain. So around the 1660s, they left for the New World, where they called themselves pilgrims. Now, another good example would be the Prophet Muhammad and his followers, who was pursued by the inhabitants of Mecca, known as the tribe of Quraysh. They too fled all the way to Ethiopia in what is called today, or it is referred to as the Hijra of AD 613 CE. So we must keep in mind that the heretics of yesterday are simply now recognized as denominational groups having different theological ideals, while those exiled in the past who once fled for their survival, their offsprings today, are now a very part of the group whose belief and practices are now recognized by many worldwide, while attracting millions of pilgrims each year to the place where the feet of their ancestors once fled swiftly to the safety of foreign lands. All right? Now, in light of that history that I just gave, we must comprehend that having a worldview that is seen as different from the mainstream religions has taught us that this can be a very fatal and dangerous thing to do, especially now for the few brave Africans who are a part of a demographically substantial size of our population, who boldly stand up to reintroduce and maintain such ancestral ideals and values in the face of a misinformed society, whose vision has been skewed by biased stereotypes of obia and superstition. So today, my task is to try and dispel such false ideas and to share our vision of the world in the light of a future that is bigger, brighter, and better for our community and the world by extension. So now I'm going to get a little bit into what is Ifá Orisa. Ifá Orisa, however, in the diaspora, is relatively old. In Trinidad, for example, our tradition, which we brought with us from that time, and even today, to some extent, has been checked and suppressed by the colonial authorities, who instituted at the time the Roman Catholicism as the official state religion of its colony. But despite all efforts to stamp out the existence of our culture, it has still survived. From the very first arrival of Africans on this island of Trinidad, the West African tradition has been here, which makes it one of the oldest religions and cultural practices on this island. In my humble view, the Ifá Orisa community still has not received the recognition or the fair treatment due for its contribution to this country's culture and character. Historically, there has been many struggles over the years to receive some of the very basic rights that our Constitution guarantees, such as being included on the state census records, identifying our religion, and recognition on other official government forms, such as registration for educational institutions. Such rights and privileges have been afforded to many other groups who arrived a lot later than the Africans, who was forcibly captured, brought, and enslaved to build this country. Fortunately for our community, today, many more of our people are reconnecting with their ancestral tradition. All right, so the lesson now. What, in fact, is Ifá? In truth, Ifá in practice is very much a living oracle. Ifá is the words of Olodumare, who is the creator, manifested through the spirit of destiny that we call Orunmila. Priests and priestesses of the tradition, which are called Babalawos, Iyanifas, and Olorishas, serve collectively as representative and shareholders of the Ifá Orisa divinatory spiritual system. When a person comes for a consultation, concise information is given, and often an ebo, which we call a sacrifice, is asked to be performed by or on behalf of the person. It is a spiritual practice, discipline, and philosophy that speaks in allegories to the human condition. The practice of Ifá was born to the Yorubas of West Africa centuries ago. Though much can be debated surrounding its path across Africa, as well as the much discussed true origin of the philosophy, one thing is certain: both the practice and the philosophy are recognized as a cultural treasure and a growing world religion. It varies traditions born out of necessity amidst the transatlantic slave trade has produced such practices as Santeria, Candomblé, Umbanda, Lukimi, Palomayombe, Voodoo, and various other traditions have grown worldwide as well. Ifá is no longer a whisper of misunderstood animism. Its pantheon represents tools to transformation for the individuals who seeks it across the globe. Now I'm going a little deeper. The Ifá system is a binary, which is basically a two-number system of divination based on the 16 basic configurations and 240 additional mixed combinations known as derivative figures or permutations called Odu. In Ifá, these Odu are obtained by the manipulation of sacred objects called ikins, 16 in number, and an opele comprising of 8 shells from the seed of a special sacred plant. The veneration of Ifá as the repository of all wisdom manifested through divination entails ceremonies, sacrifices, taboos, the use of special tools such as drums, songs, chants, praises, initiations, and other ritual elements that is comparable to those of other ancient traditions and cultural practices of indigenous peoples. The truth is, all the details of these practices are sacred, and as a result, much of it cannot be discussed publicly. However, persons who are interested may contact me directly through Facebook Messenger. And I will give you information on where you can access classes on the fundamentals of Ifá, pre-Ishefa, and various other classes and services that we offer as a community. Based on your location, I would be able to advise you as to where is the closest shrine or Ile. All right, many of our videos can be viewed on YouTube at Ifá Bamero, home of Ifá Orisa tradition, as well as on Agiogbe family, on the Agiogbe family group on YouTube. We also have a variety of Facebook groups you can join to learn more, such as the Ile Ijuba Ode Otun, such as the Ifá Orisa Tradition Discussion Group, such as the Traditional Herbal Health Network International, the Grassroots Education and Entertainment Network, the Ifá Orisa Tradition Teaching Group, the Ifá Orisa Community Congress, the Ifá Orisa Institute of Sacred and Divine Sciences, Ifá Bamero, home of Ifá Orisa Tradition, and the Orisha Baptist Small and Medium Business Alliance. All right, I would like to thank everyone for taking in the live who has been here with me. And I would like to advise you, if you do good, you do good for yourself. If you do bad, you do bad for yourself. So my advice is, always try to be good to yourself and to each other. And with that, I would like to say Odabo and see you next month. Bye.